Hello and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget. Yes, this is the second time you'll be seeing me or hearing me this week, however you are consuming this podcast at this point. But gonna start to try and do this on a weekly basis during the football season. Do my reaction show early in the week on Sunday or Monday, and then do my picks and previews either on Wednesday or Thursday. So this is the second time you'll see me this week, and this is going to be my picks and preview show for both college football and the NFL. But before we go ahead and get to my picks for the week, I just want to kind of remind you, if you like this podcast on the video version, please like, subscribe right down here. Leave us a comment if you'd like. Hell, leave us your top picks for this weekend in college football and the NFL. Would love to see some of the top picks from out there. I pick against the spread. If you pick straight up, that's totally fine. I don't care about that. And then if you prefer the audio version, of course, you can find this on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. But let's go ahead and get into the show and get into my top 5 picks in both college and NFL football, starting with college football. My first pick, and this is a huge weekend. So I know we had kind of what we call a sleepy Saturday last weekend going into the week, but it was anything but that, and it was just kind of a carnage Saturday is what it ended up being. Just a lot of big brands and top 15 teams just losing this past weekend in college football. Well, the slate we're seeing this Saturday is definitely not a sleepy Saturday, and teams are going to be on high alert. Big teams are going to be on high alert this Saturday because there's some big matchups, some big games, and we're going to break down at least 5 of those big games, and we're going to start in what I think is one of the biggest games in college football every year, and that is the Red River Rivalry, Red River Shootout, whatever they call it down there. But that is Texas Texas versus Oklahoma, number 1 versus number 18. This is played in Dallas, Texas, at the Cotton Bowl on the Texas State Fairgrounds while the Texas State Fair is going on. I was there last year, at least in the State Fair. I was not there at the game, but I was there at the State Fair. Crazy environment. I could feel the environment outside the stadium last year, so that was really cool to see. And then it was really cool to see kind of the orange and crimson red just file out of the stadium when the game was over. Of course, all the people in crimson red were smiling, and the people in orange were not happy last year because the result was Oklahoma with an upset victory over Texas. And if Oklahoma wins again, it'll be an even bigger upset than it was last year, because right now this is currently a 14.5-point spread. Texas is currently favored in this game by 14.5 points. And you can make the argument that, of course, the AP has made that argument that Texas is the best team in the country by ranking them number 1. I don't have a problem with that. Texas might be the most complete team I've seen in the country, and that's with either Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning at quarterback. They're expected to have Quinn Ewers back this Saturday. I think that's when they're at their best, is when Quinn Ewers is there, even though Arch Manning did play well in his absence. This Texas team is totally complete. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They're better in the air, but they can still run the ball to keep you honest. Their defense gets after you both in the front 7 and in the back end in the secondary. This is a complete Texas team. And when we're looking at the other side at Oklahoma, they made the change at quarterback going from Jackson Arnold to Michael Hawkins a couple weeks ago. Great against Auburn. Their defense had to win them the game against Auburn, and their defense is going to be what's going to be the key for them this week as well. Their defense statistically isn't great, but if you watch them play, their defense is pretty stout. But they're going to have their hands full, like I already mentioned, with Texas and what Texas brings on the offensive end. It's going to be a long day, I think, for this Oklahoma team. I don't like the matchup for Oklahoma. I don't know what we're getting from the quarterback position and the offense entirely from Oklahoma. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up. I think Texas will be able to eventually score, even if it's not as much as they've been accustomed to lately. They will eventually be able to score on Oklahoma, and I just don't think Oklahoma gets a lot of points in this game on Texas and that defense. So I like Texas to win, and I think they cover too. I think this game gets out of hand in the second half, and Oklahoma is just in over their head, and the matchup just isn't there for Oklahoma. So give me Texas to win and cover. Texas minus 14 is the pick for me there. And then we'll go to another big game, and this is going to be on CBS at about 1:30 Mountain Time for me, 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 in the Eastern Time Zone, and that is number 4 Penn State at USC. And USC is coming off that heartbreaking loss on the road last week to Minnesota, their second loss of the season. And obviously, you know I'm a USC fan if you listen or watch the show. USC is in desperation mode right now. The matchup against Penn State is not great. Penn State gets after the passer. USC is not great at protecting Miller Moss. Penn State likes to run the ball and runs the ball better than almost any other team in the country. And USC did not look good against the run last week against Minnesota. So all the matchups favor Penn State. But the question for me is USC improved this year? And what do they have deep down inside them? What do they have in their chest? What do they have in their heart? Because USC, like I said, all the matchups favor Penn State. Penn State is a 4.5-point favorite on the road at the Coliseum. So if this was a neutral site, it'd probably be Penn State 7.5 or maybe 8. And if it was in Happy Valley, they'd probably be double-digit favorites. So Penn State, like I said, everything favors them. What does USC have in their chest? What kind of heart does USC have? Because if they leave this game with a loss and they're 3-3, the noise is going to get loud for Lincoln Riley. It already is. It's going to get even louder. The stadium's not going to be as full for their next home games because in LA, if you're not winning, they're not showing up to your games. So this is a high-pressure, desperation mode game for USC. And can they respond? I think they respond enough to at least keep it close. So give me USC plus 4.5 in this game. But yeah, desperation, wounded animal mode, whatever you want to call this USC team, they are in desperation mode right now, and they need to at least have a decent showing. And I think they need to win in this game. So like I said, give me USC plus 4.5. Let's see what they got in the old core zone there. Basically, let's see what they got in their chest and see if they're up to the task against the Penn State team. Like I said, that has all the matchups in their favor. And then another huge game in college football, and then in the Big Ten. And this is going to be the night game on NBC. And that is number 2 Ohio State and number 3 Oregon. And Ohio State is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Now, both these teams haven't really played that tough of a schedule. Oregon's been a little bit tougher with that game against Boise State. Ohio State, I mean, I know they played 2 conference games already at Michigan State and Iowa at home. But in the second half, they hammered both of them. So I don't know. We're going to find out this Saturday how good both these teams are because, in my opinion, they really haven't played anybody that's up to their level on their schedule yet. So we're going to find out exactly who they are this weekend. The thing that worries me for Oregon is 2 things. Their run defense, they've been ran on very well this year, whether it was Ashton Genty. Even last week, Michigan State ran on them. Oregon State had some success early but kind of shut down in the second half. That's not good when you're going up against Ohio State and their duo of Quinshon Judkins and Trevion Henderson. So that doesn't bode well for Oregon. And number 2 is Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel has been kind of sporadic this year. He was not good last week, at least early on in the first half against Michigan State. He wasn't good against Boise State. He wasn't good in the opener against Idaho. He had a good game against Oregon State, but that was probably by far his best game of the season. He's had turnover issues. He's had accuracy issues. They're going to need him to look like the Dylan Gabriel last year for Oklahoma, and especially last year on this weekend when they played Texas last year, one of his best games as a college quarterback. They're going to need that Dylan Gabriel to really kind of push this Ohio State team because I think Ohio State's going to be able to score and move the ball and run the ball on this Oregon team. So they're going to need their offense to show up to kind of match scores against this Ohio State team. Another question for Ohio State is going to be Will Howard. Will Howard was a pretty good quarterback at Kansas State, but you haven't really seen much out of him this year so far for Ohio State, but they haven't needed much out of him because of their schedule this year. So let's see if he's up to the task. I just think the matchup's just too much in Ohio State's favor, in my opinion, especially when you look at the run offense for Ohio State versus the run defense for Oregon. So give me Ohio State to win, and I think they actually cover on the road. Ohio State -3 is the play for me there. And then another big game, we're going to go back to the SEC, and we have Ole Miss, number 9 Ole Miss, traveling to LSU, number 13 LSU, and Ole Miss is actually a 3.5-point favorite in this game. That kind of shocks me a little bit because Ole Miss bounced back last week against South Carolina and had a better game than they obviously did against Kentucky 2 weeks ago, but we still haven't seen the full potential, and they're on the road in LSU. LSU seems to be getting their feet underneath them, coming off a bye week. This is going to be Ole Miss's 7th straight game, and they're a 3.5-point favorite in Death Valley against LSU. I don't like that at all. Like I said with LSU, they seem to be getting their footing underneath them. Nussmeier's playing really well at the quarterback position. They're running the ball better. Their defense is getting better under Blake Baker, the new defensive coordinator. I like LSU a lot. I don't understand this line at all. I'm going to slam this line here for LSU. I love LSU plus 3.5. Some places it's 3, some places it's 2.5. I think LSU wins outright. So if you get anything over 2 plus 2 for LSU, slam that. I like LSU big in this spot. Ole Miss, I'm just not sold on them yet. Yes, a nice bounce back on the road at South Carolina, but maybe South Carolina wasn't as good of a team as we thought they were after that huge victory they had over Kentucky earlier in the year. So LSU plus 3.5 is the play for me here. And then we'll move to the Big 12 in kind of a sneaky big game. This is going to be a late night game on ESPN, and that is number 8 Kansas State at Colorado. And Colorado is undefeated in the Big 12, currently tied for first with teams like Texas Tech and Iowa State. I think they're actually behind them because they haven't played as many conference games, but still undefeated in the Big 12. But another matchup kind of nightmare game, kind of a theme going on throughout these games. Colorado better against the run against UCF, but maybe UCF was not as good of a team as we thought they were after what they looked like last week against Florida. Kansas State is a team that's going to run the ball well. They have 2 backs that run the ball well, and then, of course, their quarterback, Avery Johnson, is going to run the ball. They're going to look to establish the run right away and keep Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter and that Colorado offense off the field, and I think they're going to have success. So that's going to be a big key there. Can Colorado slow down this rushing attack for Kansas State and get their offense on the field? And this Colorado team, they handled success after that Baylor win against UCF on the road when they were double-digit underdogs. Can they continue to handle success? Because it's not been a good thing, even in just the short tenure for Deion Sanders at Colorado. It has not been something they've been good at, is handling success. Can they handle success? They are a 4-point underdog. Kansas State is a 4-point favorite in this game. And for me, that rushing matchup, Kansas State's rushing offense versus Colorado's rushing defense, is just too much of a mismatch for me. I think Kansas State wins and covers, so give me Kansas State -4 in this game. Both these teams are coming off bye, so they should be both fresh. So, like I said, I like Kansas State to win and cover, Kansas State -4. But if Colorado finds a way to get this victory, man, things are going to get interesting for that team. They could be a Big 12. They will be a Big 12 contender, and that means they would be a playoff contender. So just something to watch there. Let's go ahead and move to the NFL. And the reason I'm doing this podcast tonight is because I am picking tomorrow night's game in the NFC West, and that is the 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. Both these teams are coming off of bad losses at home. Seattle loses to the Giants at home on Sunday after getting that field goal blocked. And then we talked about the 49ers in that Monday show, losing at home to the Arizona Cardinals after having a 13-point halftime lead. That was not good either. So both these teams need a victory and need it bad. Currently, Seattle is sitting atop the NFC West standings at 3-2, and the 49ers cannot fall to 2-4. They cannot fall to 2-4. It's going to get loud and it's going to get rough in a hurry for them. They're currently a 3.5-point favorite in this game. This Seattle team, they got fat. They got a lot of wins early on against bad teams. They went on the road and beat my Patriots, which are a bad team. They won 2 games at home against bad teams, a Miami team without Tua Tagovailoa. And then I'm trying to remember their first win, but it was not a good team. Yeah, it was Denver before Denver got their footing underneath them, and Bo Nix had his worst game in his first game that he's had as a pro. So Seattle was a little bit of a fugazi going into last week, and I think they continue to be that way. Yes, Seattle is a tough place to play, and it's hard to get a victory in Seattle, but I think the 49ers have done that plenty of times throughout history, so I think they go in there, they get a victory, they cover, give me the 49ers -3.5 in this game. And then we're going to move to the Commanders at the Ravens, and this is a big game, and the Ravens are currently a 6.5-point favorite. Now, the Ravens looked awesome on offense, and Lamar Jackson looked awesome last week as well, but their defense was just torn apart by Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow is a top 4 quarterback in the league, so it's not really anything to be ashamed about to get torn apart by Joe Burrow. But you know who else is playing like a top 5 quarterback in the league right now? Jayden Daniels, the rookie for Washington. And maybe he's able to kind of carve them up a little bit. 6.5 points is a lot. And this Washington team, they run the ball really well with Brian Robinson Jr. Now they have Austin Eckler back. And they're playing good in the pass game with Jayden Daniels, with guys on the outside like Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz at the tight end position. I think the Commanders go into Baltimore. This is obviously an easy travel for them. It's just the state over, actually. They're in the same state, if you want, D.C. and Maryland there, or sorry, D.C. and Baltimore, so it's not a long travel. Baltimore can be a tough place to play, but it's an afternoon game. It's not a night game. So I think the Commanders cover this spread and have a chance to win the game outright. So give me the Commanders plus 6.5 in this spot. And then we'll go to the NFC South, and this is actually a sneaky good game as well, and that is the Buccaneers at the Saints. The only problem for the Saints is their Carr is going to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and they announced today that they're going to be starting rookie Spencer Rattler at quarterback. I wasn't a huge fan of Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma or South Carolina in college. We'll see. I don't like that move at all. And the Buccaneers are coming off of a bye, so I think the Buccaneers go into New Orleans. New Orleans is reeling a little bit, lost 3 in a row after that hot 2-0 start. I think they lose 4 in a row, and I think the Buccaneers get a victory and get a big victory. Give me the Buccaneers minus 3.5. I think they could win this game going away. And then we'll go to a game that's also a big game as well, and that is the Lions at the Cowboys. The Lions are currently a 3-point favorite in this game. Now, the Cowboys may have saved their season Sunday night in Pittsburgh with that last-minute drive by Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, but he had 3 turnovers in that game, and it wasn't exactly impressive, and Pittsburgh could do nothing on offense. So maybe Dallas figured out their defense a little bit, or maybe Pittsburgh is just kind of inept on the offensive side. 2 of those things could both be true there, but you're playing a Lions team that's coming off a bye, and what the Cowboys do not do well outside of last week against the Steelers is play against the run. And what are the Lions going to do with both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery? They're going to want to run the ball down your throat just like they did the Seattle Seahawks 2 weeks ago on Monday night. They have the best offensive line in the league. They have probably the best running back duo in the league with Gibbs and Montgomery. They're going to want to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball down your throat, and that's exactly what I think is going to be the mismatch here. I think the Cowboys can maybe keep up on offense because that Lions defense is nothing to write home about, but the Lions are going to keep the ball away from Prescott on that offense and run the ball down the Cowboys' throat, and that's why I like the Lions to win and cover. Give me the Lions -3 to get a victory in Dallas, get a big victory in Dallas. And then we'll finish off with the Monday night game, and that is the the Bills at the Jets, and the Bills are currently a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Now, obviously, the big news of the week in the NFL is what happened yesterday with the Jets, them firing Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh was not a good coach. I'll get that out first. Robert Saleh was not a good coach in the NFL, but it has never worked well to fire your coach 5 games into the season, this early in the season. Yes, I know you're 2-3, but do you really think firing your coach who runs the defense, which has been the best part of your team, is really going to right the ship for your team? No, it's not. And that's why I've never bought into the Jets being any kind of Super Bowl or even championship game or even really division contender, in my opinion, because they're just one of the most unserious organizations in American sports. One of the most dysfunctional, unserious, poorly ran teams and organizations and franchises in American sports, and they showed it again this week with just the kind of clown show that they've been doing. They've been pandering to a 40-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers for 2 years now, and guess what? It's gotten you 2 victories. It's gotten you 2 victories in 2 years. He played 4 plays last year and got hurt. This year he hasn't played well outside of the New England game, really. So this team, like I said, they're an unserious organization, and that's why I don't think they're going to contend for a playoff spot. That's why I didn't have them as a playoff team going into the season, even though everybody and their mom had them winning the division and getting to the playoffs. The Bills go into New York, get a victory, turn it around. The Bills have not played well in the last 2 weeks. They turn around their season, get a victory against the Jets because the Jets are the Jets and they're going to Jets. So give me the Bills -2.5 in this game. Josh Allen bounces back, gets Khalil Shakir back. The Bills bounce back, and the Jets continue to do what they do and be the Jets. And that's why they end up losing and falling to 2-4 on the season. So those have been my picks. Thank you for always watching and listening. Of course, you can find this show right here on YouTube under Sports Talk on a Budget. Please like and subscribe to the show. Leave a comment with your picks of the week. I'd love to see that. Obviously, if you prefer the audio version, you could find it on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Thank you for always watching and listening to the show, and have a great day.